Welcome to Studio 51. I'm Sean Keenahan.
And I'm Stephanie Skelnick. Studio 51 is a weekly news magazine produced by Loyola University students in Chicago. Our name is Studio 51 because we are located on 51 East Pearson in this beautiful street studio in downtown Chicago.
We've got a great show for you and lots of stories to bring you from Chicago this week. We'll have special reports on the Janila Watkins funeral, the continuing controversy with charter schools, and Brian Urlacher's departure from the Bears.
Aside from the Bears, it's March Madness, and that madness extended to Loyola's women's basketball team, which is the subject of our super fan rant. Our foodie has a great restaurant pick that you won't want to miss, and a closer look at small businesses here in the Windy City. All that and more.
But first, let's get a news roundup from Studio 51's Newsbeat reporter, Stephanie Sanford.
It's a boiling controversy, and it got hotter this week. After several public hearings and protests, the Chicago Public Schools announced they will indeed close elementary schools on the city's west and south sides. CPS has never closed more than a dozen schools in a year, but Mayor Rahm Emanuel says the district needs to do more and needs to close underenrolled schools to address a $1 billion deficit. But the president of the Chicago Teachers Union, Karen Lewis, is against the closures. She's been quoted in several media sources saying that the city cannot destroy that many schools or it will send the district into chaos. CPS has a website detailing which schools will be closing and how students will be transferred. On a further note, some proposed school closings could be charter schools. Studio 51 takes a closer look at charter schools later on in the program. Chicago is still reeling from the death of 6-month-old Janila Watkins. Studio 51 reporter Katie Knuckles gives us more on the aftermath of her funeral.
I'm standing outside of New Beginnings Church, where hundreds of people have gathered inside to commemorate a young life lost. 6-month-old Janila Watkins was shot and killed sitting on her father's lap in the driver's seat of their minivan March 11th. Janila's service was held at the New Beginnings Church, welcoming family, friends, and members of the community to come pay their respects.
It is crazy. It's unbelievable because she was just 6 months.
People were lined up down the block hoping to get in, but it wasn't long before the church met its capacity. Many were left out in the cold until some, like Kaiva Hadson, gave up her seat early so others could come inside.
It's just a sad.
Charles Stokes, a member of the Woodlawn community, was holding a sign pleading for the safety of their children. His 8-year-old daughter had also been caught in the crossfire 3 years before, just down the street from where young Janila was shot.
Like they said, it just brought, no matter what side of town, it brought a community together to say that we tired. No matter what age, it's young people and there's old people, we tired. We're not going to keep allowing people to kill our children on the street. They say snitching, ain't no such thing as snitching when you're killing the innocent.
The police have reason to believe that the shots were intended for her father, Jonathan Watkins. Watkins is a convicted felon with alleged gang ties. The police have been looking at surveillance video, and Superintendent Gary McCarthy has high hopes that this case will soon be solved. Although the investigation is still underway, the killer is still at large. Reporting from New Beginnings Church, I'm Katie Knuckles, Studio 51 News.
Meanwhile, overseas, it was a bold call for peace by President Barack Obama. In Jerusalem, he called for a separate Palestinian state. Speaking before Israeli university students, the president said that peace must be made among peoples, not just governments. He went on to say progress with the Palestinians is a powerful way to begin, while sidelining extremists who thrive on conflict and division. And finally, Twinkie lovers everywhere rejoice. The new owners of the now-defunct Hostess brand hope to put Twinkies back in stores this summer. Ding-dongs, ho-hos, and donuts will also be put back on the shelves. Looks like everyone will be able to have their cake and eat it too. And that's your news roundup for Studio 51. I'm Stephanie Sanford.
Thanks, Stephanie. This has really been a very busy week, not only in Chicago and around the nation, but here at Loyola.
That's right. We're joined now with Loyola Phoenix copy editor Caitlin Wilson to talk about one major story that has impacted the Loyola student body. Caitlin, we want to thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much, Sean.
And I guess the top story on campus this week has been an accident that involved 2 individuals that were struck by a car this past St. Patrick's Day weekend. Could you give us some more details?
Sure. So it was 2 freshman students, Connor Crippen and Anna Waz. They were walking with some friends in Lincoln Park, the Lincoln Park neighborhood, after a St. Patrick's Day celebration Saturday evening when they were both hit by a Nissan car. And so Connor was taken to a Northside hospital where he was put into a medically induced coma, and Anna Waz was also taken there, but she was released Monday as her injuries were less serious than originally anticipated.
And then how about Crippen? Have there been any updates on his condition?
Yes. Like I said, he's in a medically induced coma, but his sister did tell the Phoenix Tuesday night that the doctors think that the swelling of his brain is mostly superficial. It's not very deep, which means he will likely make a full recovery, but it will be a long road.
And how has the reaction been on campus this week?
Students have really been showing an outpouring of support. They were both with a group of friends when they were hit, so that impacted them. And on Sunday night, Father Tom Reagan actually said a special mass at Madonna della Strada Chapel for their full recovery.
And what do we know about the driver of the Nissan Pathfinder?
At this point, not very much. The police are still investigating. He did take a field sobriety test, but then he refused to take a breathalyzer test. So we may hear more about that in the future, we may not. Okay,
and then if students want to reach out to Crippen's family or show their support, what can they do?
There's actually a Facebook page called Prayer Requests for Connor that they can go to. The family has been updating Connor's status, and they're also allowing students to show support there.
Okay, great. Caitlin, thank you so much for joining us. You can pick up your copy of the award-winning Loyola Phoenix on campus every Wednesday, or you can visit Loyola Phoenix online at www.loyolaphoenix.com.
Thanks, Sean. There is new information on children with autism and why the number may be rising. Our Health Beat reporter Jason Weeder has the latest.
Thanks, Stephanie. There are surprising new numbers when it comes to one disorder in children. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, about 1 in 50 kids could have autism. There are previous estimates that 1 in 87 kids could have the disorder, but researchers say the rise could be a result of better testing methods and higher awareness of mild cases. Although doctors can test for the disease in 2-month-old children, it's still encouraged to screen kids by age 2. Drinking coffee and tea can help you feel energized, but new research suggests it could also decrease your risk of stroke. According to a study conducted in Japan over 13 years, people who drank at least 1 cup of coffee saw about a 20% lower risk of stroke. Those who drank about 3 cups of tea saw about 14% decrease. Researchers say drinking coffee or tea could also help decrease bleeding on the brain, which is the cause of 13% of strokes. And finally, Cook County may be home to the second city, but a new study says it's also home to some of the state's unhealthiest residents. According to a study from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, Cook County ranked 78th in unhealthy residents. The study was based on 25 key health factors, including smoking, obesity, and access to healthy food and doctors. The healthiest county in the area was DuPage County, which ranked 6th. And that's your Health Beat. For Studio 51, I'm Jason Weeder. Let's send it back to Sean and Stephanie.
Thanks, Jason, for the updates. Coming up, a look at how the economy is affecting small businesses in Chicago.
Also up next, it's the end of an era for Bears football. And a resident foodie has a report on a restaurant on Loyola's Lakeshore campus. Stay with us.
We're from WLUW Chicago Sound Alliance. You've probably never heard of us. We're pretty obscure.
We're so underground that we're broadcasting to you now live from the center of the earth, just to get the word out. #irony.
Are you always confused when your hip friends are talking about insert band name here?
Do you stand around awkwardly at basement shows while everyone else around you sways violently to the music?
Do you just want to, explore new music? Then we're your solution. Impress your friends by discovering unique music for independent minds.
Every minute of every hour of every day, WLUW can be bumping through your speakers. We're just a click away.
Welcome back, and thanks for joining us.
Next time you're going to work or school, look around. Chicago is filled with thousands of small businesses, mom and pop stores. With an economy on the upswing, are small businesses improving? Studio 51 reporter Tahira Rahman has a closer look.
At first glance, it seems like the economic downturn is looking up. The latest report from the National Labor Department shows that more than 200,000 new employees were hired last month, bringing unemployment down to 7.7%, the lowest it's been since 2008. But for some Chicago businesses, the data isn't translating.
Things aren't exploding.
Ken Walchuk hasn't been hiring new workers at his store, a 90-year-old neighborhood staple. Economist David Nice explains how a closer look at the numbers shows that small businesses like Walchuk's may not be seeing upward trends.
It tends to be the line, that small businesses drive hiring, but in actuality it's new business.
Lori Garcia manages a 7-year-old store. She hasn't added any new workers to her 5-person staff either, but they are working more hours.
We've taken on a full-time manager.
More full-time workers may also be good for customers. According to the Commerce Department, sales have risen 3% from last year. Still, Walchek notices that his customers don't spend as freely as they used to.
Those days are gone forever. I think those days are gone forever.
But the economic forecast looks pretty promising.
We expect the economy to continue to strengthen.
With that in mind, Garcia is making plans.
We are looking to increase and add a lot more services, so it will be really good soon.
Walchek's family has also been trying to expand their business, and when he falls flat,
You generally get up and you say, oh boy, that hurts. And you go back and you figure out what went wrong, and you try something else.
With the federal sequester going into effect March 1st, NICE said we'll have to see how those effects play out in both the public and private sectors, as well as for small and large businesses. For Studio 51 News, I'm Tahira Rahman.
Well, there's been a lot of big stories in sports this week. Let's see if Kristen Immel can get it all done in 51 seconds. Kristen, take it away.
All right, sports fans, get your stopwatches ready. After 13 years with the Bears, linebacker Brian Urlacher is a free agent. The Bears offered him a 1-year, $2 million deal. He said no. And listen to this quote he gave the Chicago Tribune. My phone was blowing up and I had no freaking idea what was going on. I had like 10 messages in 20 seconds. Then I was like, holy crap, it was crazy. But he's gone now. Have you filled out your bracket? President Obama sure has. March Madness is back. Louisville is an early favorite after becoming the NCAA's #1 overall seed. Don't know who to pick? Just choose the cooler mascot. Blackhawks forward Marian Hossa sustained a mysterious injury during Monday night's win over the Colorado Avalanche. Hossa did not play during Wednesday night's loss to the Anaheim Ducks. Could Cubs fans soon be singing "Take Me Out to the Suburbs"? Rosemont Mayor Brad Stevens sure hopes so. He has offered free land if the team chooses to relocate. Finally, Loyola women's basketball lost to Green Bay in the Horizon League Conference Championship game on Sunday. The team had their first winning season in over a decade. Well, I'm out of time, but for more on Loyola's women's basketball team, I'm going to pass it over to Studio 51 sports superfan Tahira Rahman.
Thanks, Kristen. The hottest piece of news in the world of Loyola sports is also a mysterious one. The resignation of women's basketball head coach Eric Simpson. The decision came out of left field, or should I say left court, since Simpson has just completed his 4th and most successful season with the Lady Ramblers. Let's look at the facts. The team has won the most games this season since their 1988-89 season. They made it to the Horizon League Conference Championships for the first time in history, finishing 2nd place. The ladies looked poised to win it all next season, with all but one of their players returning to the team next year. Considering all these facts, I simply cannot understand why Simpson would call it quits. The coach has not spoken one word about why he is resigning, and neither has anyone else from the athletic department. Although Simpson's resignation is a surprise, unfortunately, it's starting to look a bit like deja vu. Less than 4 months ago, the men's soccer team also finished 2nd in their championships, and the athletic department announced they would not renew former head coach Brendan Eitz's contract. And get this, whoever he or she will be, the new leader of the Lady Ramblers will be the 8th head coach to join the department in just 2 years. So what does this all mean for Loyola sports? What exactly is going on? That's a good question, fellow superfans, and one I think Loyola's athletic department needs to start answering. The department needs to be more transparent. They are trying to boost our sports programs, but that also means pushing it further into the spotlight, where big decisions like this one will no longer go unquestioned by students. I'm Tahira Rahman, your sports superfan.
Thanks, superfan. Wow, we're going through more coaches than Cubs go through pitchers.
Yeah, there's definitely been a lot of changes in Loyola's athletic program. Let's just hope that we're moving in the right direction.
Getting hungry, but tired of the same old sandwich shops? This week's foodie, Mary Sugden, has a solution: a trip around the world.
This week, I decided to try out a relatively new spot on Loyola's Lakeshore campus. Located on Broadway Avenue, just a block south of the Red Line stop, Around the World Gourmet Sandwiches promises that they aren't fast food, just great food fast. 13 globally themed sandwiches, as well as 3 different salads and sausages, set the menu and all contain organic ingredients. Every sauce and dressing is made in-house from scratch. I was still feeling my Irish pride from St. Patrick's Day, so I decided to go with something called the Fighting Irish. This comprised of juicy corned beef brisket, honey mustard sauce, baby Swiss, and to top it off, herb potato chips. The sandwich was grilled and served with a side of spicy homemade coleslaw. The balance of the salty brisket and chips with the sweet honey mustard was perfect, and the chips offered an interesting but welcome crunch to the sandwich. However, I did feel at times I had too much bread, which made the sandwich a little dry. The Fighting Irish was priced around $9, and that was without a drink or chips. So for the college student that's on a budget, look elsewhere. There are cheaper sandwiches on the menu, which run around $6. Overall, Around the World provides a well-balanced and interesting menu with something for everyone. For those of you looking to try something new and change up your sandwich routine, let your taste buds go on a trip around the world. They deliver on their promise of great food fast. This is your foodie, Mary Sugden, for Studio 51, sending it back to you, Sean.
Thanks, Mary. Sounds like a pretty convenient restaurant for Loyola students on the Lakeshore campus.
Yeah, it does, but we would like to hear from you. Do you have a pick for our foodie? Email us at studio51news@gmail.com.
And coming up, charter schools. What do you think about them? Should we have more? Less? Studio 51's Dominique Stem has a special report.
Also coming up, this week's Point Counterpoint. Chicago police have a new policy. They will not dispatch an officer to the scene of a low-level crime. Police want to save those resources for more serious crimes. We'll have a face-off after this break.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi.
Is this the Phoenix Loyola student newspaper?
Yes.
I'm near your headquarters. Mind if I drop in?
Absolutely. Our offices are in the basement of the CFSU.
Yikes.
Where are you?
Phoenix? Arizona?
You know, becoming a part of the Phoenix isn't that difficult. It's actually quite easy. Give us a call, shoot us an email. Who knows? You might even win yourself one of these bad boys. It could change your life.
Thanks for staying with us. Sean, have you ever been the victim of a crime?
Yeah, you know, unfortunately once I had my car broken into. I actually called the cops, police came out, and I filed a report.
Well, that might not be the case in the future with a new police policy. Should Chicago police officers be dispatched to low-level crime scenes? That's the subject of this week's Point Counterpoint with Caitlin McMurray and Wendy Esparza. Take it away.
Thanks, Stephanie. Today we're talking about this new measure that the Chicago Police Department admitted last month and currently in effect, which states police officers will not have to respond to 911 calls in which the offender is no longer present or no one is in immediate danger. I completely agree with this measure. Caitlin, what do you think?
Well, I completely disagree. I think that how do we determine what a low-level crime is?
Well, I think it's pretty common sense. I think if you look at the front page of the Chicago Tribune, you won't find a woman who had $200 stolen from her purse. You'll have the serious issue in Chicago right now, which is gun violence and murders. You know, last year alone, 500 homicides took place in the city. In January alone, 40, deadliest since 2002. I think that's the real issue that police officers should physically be responding to.
Well, and I'm not saying that gun violence isn't an issue. I'm saying that some of these crimes, I mean, if your car gets stolen, don't you want someone to be there to collect the evidence?
But that's not the issue. I recently called a cop and he was saying parents are calling in because their kids are being uncooperative, fighting over the remote control. Like, that to me is pretty low level.
And I mean, I agree, police should not be responding to crime. That's not even a crime. Police should not be responding to that. But I think that if your car's stolen or if your garage is burglarized, police should be responding. How can you say that that's not a crime? How can you tell someone that they need to just report what happened on the phone and have no one to be there to collect the evidence?
Well, let's look at some of the things that might happen with this new measure. 44 police officers would be free to attend to serious crimes. I think more police presence out in the streets would help deter crime. I think that's would have a greater impact on the city of Chicago.
Well, who's to say that if police aren't physically responding to car thefts, who's to say car thefts won't rise in the city of Chicago?
Well, I think if you compare that to like a baby being shot, I think that takes priority.
Well, I'm not saying that a baby being shot is not a priority, but I think eventually the police should respond that evening. But I guess we're just going to have to agree to disagree. This has been this week's Point Counterpoint. I'm Caitlin McMurray.
And I'm Wendy Esparza.
Join us next week where we heat up
or cool down another controversial topic.
Back to you guys in the studio.
Thanks, Caitlin and Wendy. A tough one to call. Point Counterpoint takes on a new issue each week, but we want to know what you think. Email us at studio51news@gmail.com, or you can tweet us at Studio51News.
Finally, this week we took a look at another controversial subject, charter schools. Here's Studio 51's Dominique Stem.
There's been a recent local and national debate on whether or not charter schools should be present in certain school systems. Because charter schools are privately funded and have freedom to create their own guidelines, there are some people who are skeptical of the quality of education received there. Here in Chicago, low-performing schools are being proposed to turn to charter schools. Tonika Johnson, a parent in the Chicago public school system, offers her thoughts on this proposal.
As a parent who's had my children attend charter schools and public schools, and I teach after school at public schools, you know, I think both are fine. I think parents should have the option, as many options as possible for their children's education. I do feel that charter schools being primarily funded by private institutions is something that definitely should be monitored.
Some school systems have gone as far as to suggest online charter schools.
I think that is probably a bit too progressive.
There are obviously some pros and cons in the charter school debate, but one thing that seems to be universal is that every child should be able to receive quality education.
Late Tuesday night, the Illinois Charter School Commission voted yes on 2 new charter schools in Chicago Public School District 299. It is unclear if this will be a yes for more charter schools in the school district, but we will keep you updated on this developing story. I'm Dominique Stem with Studio 51 News.
You know, Chicago schools and our crime scenes have made national headlines in recent weeks. We'll be following both of these stories in the coming weeks.
On a lighter note, we are approaching the Easter and Passover holidays, and officially, spring has sprung, despite what you see outside our studio. We wish all of our Jewish friends a happy Passover, and we look forward to this coming Holy Week.
Yeah, we'll all be praying for warmer weather. For Studio 51, I'm Sean Keenahan.
And I'm Stephanie Skelnick. See you next week.
Stop, I'm caught this